Well, we're here again for the first time. So, we are here to do this podcast, and it's been a long time coming. We've wanted to do this. Well, I've wanted to do this for about 5 or 6 years. And I finally convinced my wife to say, okay, let's start this business and let's do this podcast and let's get it started. So I guess we should start with who we are. And you can start with you and your background and just give us we'll just do a short version of our background and then we'll get right into what we're going to talk about.
Okay. Well, my name is Diana Houston, and I served in the Air Force for 11 years, active duty. I recently retired from the federal government after 25 years. But total, I've been with the government for 30 years. For 5 years, I was a government contractor. My education, I have a bachelor's in human services, specializing in criminal justice. I also have a master's degree in project management. I'm married to a wonderful husband of 25 years, and we have 3 children and 6 grandchildren.
Okay, and
I'm a woman of faith. Sorry.
And I am Christopher Houston. My background is that of a retired Air Force sergeant. I served in the military for 20 years, retired in 2006. Since then, I've been a government contractor. I've worked for TSA, worked for Caesars Corporate, and a few other positions. But the bottom line is I've been in information technology for about 38 years. So I've also reached the grade of GS-15, which is one of the highest grades you can get in the federal government. And I've been leading individuals for the last 15 years in different capacity. And I have 3 master's degrees, one in information systems, one in project management, and I have an MBA. So we'll get into all of that later, but that's kind of our background. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about growth. Diane and I started this, we started about, 10 months ago, 9-10 months ago. We started thinking about starting our own leadership development business. So we've been kind of putting a few things together, understanding how to do a few things, and now we're ready to go. Who we serve are individuals that are supervisors, managers, and people just ready to lead a team of people. We help them get prepared before they're promoted. Because a lot of times what happens is people get promoted for a bunch of different reasons, and sometimes they're not really ready. And for those individuals who know they're not ready, but they do want to get promoted, CD Houston Leadership Development is where you want to be. So we're going to get started, and today we're going to talk about a few things that kind of stop leaders or stop people from becoming good leaders. And here's the thing, they don't know what's happening. They don't know what these things are. So we're going to go over a few of them. There's 8 of them. We're probably going to go through about 4 of them, and maybe we'll get through 5. But we're going to go over these, and they're called gaps. And they're gaps in the way people move and how they think. But specifically, there's going to be 8 of them. And the first one that stops people from growing is assumption. They assume they're just going to grow. Just by staying with the company for 10 years or staying with the company for 20 years or just, doing the same job for 10 or 15 years, they just expect that they would have grown. And that's not the case. So, Diana, has there ever been a time when you kind of assumed you were going to grow and maybe you didn't?
Yes. When I separated from the military after 11 years, I crossed over to the federal side and started a new career as an investigator, as a federal background investigator. And I thought that I was going to grow in this job. I had a great supervisor at the time, and it was great. Then there was a shift in management, and I learned that I was the one that was defensive, and it was hard to take constructive criticism from a specific manager, and it stopped my growth. It didn't. I couldn't grow. I was eager and I was excited for this new career, and but I learned something about myself, and that was being defensive. And so I assumed I was going to grow, but it wasn't until I started to receive constructive criticism, and I learned that I had a difficult time receiving that.
Yeah, I mean, we both were young when we first started in the military, so I get it. I know that I definitely thought that the Air Force was just going to give me enough information for me just to grow just by, I think you mentioned it earlier, when you go in the military, they kind of tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. Those first 3-4 years, they're basically telling you exactly what to do and when to do it. And I made rank like I was supposed to. But making rank, or once again, getting a promotion, doesn't automatically mean you have grown. There's a bunch of different reasons to get a promotion and a bunch of different ways to get it. But just because you get a promotion, it does not mean that you have grown or that you're even ready for that next step. So I think I was probably in that role, or I was kind of like that. I was muddling along, and then right around, and I was a late bloomer, right around the 10th or 11th year, that's when I really started to understand that, no, I needed to do more. And I started going to school. That's when I got my bachelor's degree, when we were in Hawaii. And then I just started to learn more and more about not only myself, but being a better leader, being a better person. And that was the start of it, but later on, it just snowballed into, me retiring and doing other things, and then getting more degrees, and then just learning about leadership. And once that happened, I knew that, no, I wasn't automatically growing. I had to intentionally grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. When joining the military, I mean, you're told what to do from the time you get off the bus, and I learned that it hindered me just a little bit. I mean, it taught me how to follow orders and to just do what I'm told. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until leaving that environment and going to the civilian sector where I thought I could use some of that in that environment. It didn't work. And so that's when I thought I could grow in the civilian sector and learn it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always say, and I say this to a lot of people who get out of the military, because I've mentored several individuals since getting out of the military, and some while I was in the military. And here's the thing. The military does provide you, especially the Air Force, I'll speak to the Air Force, mm-hmm. It provides you with a lot of leadership courses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of opportunities. But here's the thing. There's a crutch that you have in the military. Now, you don't have to use it all the time, but you end up using it. And that crutch is your rank. Yeah. Or your rank. Because at the end of the day, when you're in the military, you can always say, well, just do it because I outrank you.
Yes.
And it's that crutch is used way too often. And then once you get out of the military, yes, there's still rank structures, but everybody's a team.
Right.
And you just can't tell everybody on your team every time you want something done, just do it because I said so. The world doesn't work that way. And the civilian life doesn't work that way. You have to have some type of knowing about leadership and the way things work and the way things should work and how to lead a team and not just manage a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't assume that you're just going to grow. That's what I tell people. Don't assume that you're just going to grow. You tell me, what have you done to grow in the past year? Then I'll let you know if you're really growing.
Yes. Yes.
So no one, if one assumes that they will automatically grow, the likely outcome is they'll be stagnant. So that's the assumption gap. The next one is the knowledge gap. Now this one kind of hit me hard in the military and when I got out of the military. I was like, man, what do I do? So with you, because the knowledge gap says, I don't know how to grow. So tell me a little bit about that. Did that, or did you see that or feel that while you were in your career?
Yes. Military, I would say I didn't know how to grow. I was just doing what I was told. And I learned that there were people around me that actually had mentors. They would interact with someone that outranked them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize I could do that because I was so concerned about fraternization or, anything like that. So, but in that situation, they were being mentored by someone and just, that someone had the aspiration to be an E6, an E7, an E9, they had that access. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that we could do that at that time. Secondly, in the civilian sector, I didn't seek a mentor right away. And just because I didn't know how to do that. So I just didn't know how to grow. And in that moment, it really just showed, I would say, my immaturity, I guess, at that time, just because I didn't know, I just assumed that I was just going to grow, just be around the people and just hear the acronyms and just hear the conversations, and I would just grow magically. Right. But that's not true. Right. But yeah, once I realized that I didn't know how to grow, then I sought a mentor, and that tended to really help. They explained how the government worked in the civilian sector. They explained the importance of writing reports and just having someone review reports, whereas before I would take offense to it if there was a lot of markup in the reports and not realizing that was someone trying to help me, but I would take it personal. And so I just learned through a mentor, just learn, and eventually you'll get there. Eventually you will mature in the position and ask questions, right? Right. That was one thing that I was always afraid of, is to ask questions, because I didn't want someone to know, oh gosh, I didn't know that, or I'm supposed to know this. I got hired for this position, so I better know this. But really, not asking questions was not teaching me how to grow. So the more questions I asked, the better. Right.
And there's not knowing how to grow can be a powerful reason to simply not grow. Right. And I found myself, I understood that right around the time when I was getting out, or I would say I had been in about 17 years. And I was like, man, I didn't get to the point I really wanted to get to in the military, but I was close to retiring, which was my goal, was to retire after 20 years. But that's when I started saying, okay, I'm going to, and I don't want to say I really humbled myself, But I just started asking a lot of questions to a lot of different people. And I found that people were willing to help.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor, and his name's Gerald. And I remember Gerald, when he gave me a book once I got out of the military. He gave me a couple of books, and I didn't read them. And then around 2008, 2009, he gave me a book, and I did read that one. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I subsequently read some books by John Maxwell, some Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. Basically, I really got into personal development. Gerald started that. But before I got out of the military, I had another friend of mine, and I met him when I first got to Nellis in 2004, before I retired. And his name's Gary. And I remember me and Gary he was a civilian working in a building next to mine. And I remember I would come outside to, just take a break or whatever, and he'd be out there and we just talk. And he actually told me about, hey, Chris, this is how it works in the civilian world. This is how it works in government contracting. And he just every day, it was just another lesson and another lesson and another lesson. And I was like, man, this guy knows a lot. And I tell him this all the time. When I see him, even to this day, when I see him, and he says, man, Chris, you took the information that I gave you, but you just took it way past what I thought was going to happen. And because I tell him, I was like, man, thank you for mentoring me before I got out of the military, because that really helped me understand what I needed to do. And once I got that knowledge, the skies was the limit, because I think I've had a pretty good career. And even before I start this career with CD Houston Leadership Development, I'm ready to do the same thing for others that Gary did for me, Gary and Gerald did for me.
Yeah.
I mentored a lot of people in the military. I've mentored people for the last 15 years now, and I know what I'm doing, and I know I can help somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember that day. I remember that conversation when you came home and you said, hey, I met this gentleman by the name of Gary, or had a conversation with him. And I remember the enthusiasm, your eyes lit up as you were having a conversation with me. And it was almost like you couldn't believe someone took that time and provided you that information. And since then, I mean, I've seen you grow not only as in your career, but also as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as an uncle. As a brother. I mean, you've just grown so much, not just in your career. This has helped you just all the way around.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I think we've grown together. We've been married 25 years, and in that time, we have grown and just done a lot of things together, lived in a lot of places, been through a lot, and through all of that, understanding leadership and understanding how to lead yourself first has been the biggest key to any job I've gotten, to anything, because once you can lead yourself and people see that, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. Because what will happen is people will just start modeling you from just watching. So in the workplace, it happens, and I try my best to be that model for someone now, because maybe I wasn't that when I first went in the military, but that was a long time ago. And when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
So I think we both have grown, and yeah, we both understand the knowledge gap, and now we want to impart that knowledge on other individuals.
Absolutely.
So next is the timing gap. Now, I'm sure we're going to laugh at this one. It's not the right time to begin, right? Because what that's saying is, you know what? It's just, I'll do it next week. I'll read that book next week. I'll I'll get my degree. I'll start my degree next year. Next semester, right? It's just not right. It's not the right time right now, and that procrastination, and I've known some people who can procrastinate. Some people that are close to me in my life. I'm not gonna call any names, but there's some people who out there who can procrastinate, but it's a thing where they have the reasons. So tell me about the timing gap. What do you think about the timing gap when I say someone who says, well, it's not the right time to begin? What do you think about that?
Well, I think initially, just learning, right? Just learning, and after all these years, we just call it what it is. It's fear. Fear it's a stronghold. Fear is false evidence appearing real. I start to think about all the things, the negative things that could happen, or just, something not happening. So the journey of the timing gap and the journey is procrastination. Really, it's just maybe not having belief or perfectionism. Like, I have to get it right, perfect. It has to be the right time, the perfect time. I want to make sure that I can still be a wife. I can still make sure I could be a mom. As I'm trying to make a decision or trying to move forward in something that is going to take a lot of time. I think for me, I spent a lot of years working so much that I value time and I value my family. And so I'll think about certain things before I step out because of the time. How long is it going to keep me away from my family? Mm-hmm. But some of it, to be real and after reflecting time alone, there are excuses at times. It's fear. I would just say that it's fear. Mm-hmm. And perfectionism. When can I do it right? Am I going to sound? How am I going to sound? Or maybe that degree will give me more opportunity, or just excuses, right? And then it comes to a point where you run out of excuses. You just like, okay, that's enough. Like, I've used every single excuse. It's time to move forward, especially when it keeps coming around, especially mm-hmm. when you do have mentors that say, hey, you really should apply for that position, or, you should really consider mentoring or coaching or whatever it is. You've impacted my life. What's delaying the process? Why aren't you going out there? Because it's not about me, really. It's about helping others and serving others and being that servant leader. I truly believe in being a servant leader. Being able to help others, being able to help someone who may not believe in themselves, and if there's something that I can be used to be able to help someone to further their career. And not only that, but just to see what's inside of them. Like, maybe someone hasn't spoke life into them. And, but going back to the question of the timing gap, it's just, there's a time when you just run out of excuses, and it's just time to step out and do what you're called to do.
Correct. Yeah. There's a thing called the law of diminishing intent. Basically, the longer you wait, the longer you'll wait.
Yeah.
Now, this is I don't know, this one for me hits because I definitely understand it. And it's the mistake gap. And it's when you say, I'm afraid of making mistakes. And as a leader, you have to be able to make a decision with limited information. Now, obviously, when you have to make decisions with limited information, there's going to be times when mistakes happen. But you have to take those mistakes and use them as learning experiences. And I'll get into it a little bit later, but tell me about when we talk about the mistake gap and I'm afraid of making mistakes, how have you handled that in your career?
Well, I retired from the federal government, and the highest grade that I achieved is a GS-14, and it was as an acting role. And I jumped right in this position and was concerned about mistakes, and I worked long hours to prevent mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. But the mistakes were needed. The reason why is it would uncover something that later I would able to fix a process, mm-hmm. right? And but in the beginning, jumping right into this position, I just learned that the mistakes allowed the team to just be cohesive. We would have meetings and we would discuss certain things, and I would make a decision, and I would own that decision. Mm-hmm. And if the decision affected the team, I wouldn't blame them. I
Right.
would take responsibility and accountability because I made that decision based on limited information I had. Mm-hmm. And whether it was a mistake, whether it was a blessing of not a mistake, but the point is just that mistakes are needed. There's something that I heard once, and that's, we need a little dirt to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's true, we do. I think also mistakes, and as a leader, you don't want to, but it's because now, you have other senior leaders looking at you and saying, hey, you don't know what you're doing. You're not managing right. You're not leading correctly. But in those mistakes and owning it in front of my team, even though some people would say, you know what, they're not gonna respect you. They're gonna think you don't know what you're doing. But really, it creates a safe place to say, my manager made a mistake. We identified it. We created a new process for it to keep that from happening again. Mm-hmm. And we weren't blamed. So if I just think in that moment, when you're able to show humility, when I was able to show humility and take accountability, it just said something, right? And I had never been a GS-14 before. That was my first time. And but I did the best that I could. I served the best that I could, and I was able to lay my head at night on my pillow and go to sleep and wake up the next morning and just do it again with peace. So mistakes are needed, and I know that I can be a perfectionist, and sometimes I'd be afraid of it, but this was the first time that I stepped out and said, whether I make a mistake or not, it's okay. It's
Right.
all right. I embraced it. So.
Right. And I like what you said about when something happens, you take responsibility. When I'm mentoring someone or coaching someone, that's the first thing I let them know. Listen, if you're going to be in charge, because here's the thing, a lot of people want the money that comes along with the position, mm-hmm. but they don't understand the responsibility that comes along with the position. And I would tell people all the time, listen, something's going good, we did it as a team. Something's going bad, it's on me.
That's right.
I did it.
Yeah.
And I'll need help fixing it, but I take responsibility no matter what any other leader tells me. That's I have to take responsibility for the team that I lead.
That's right.
And once you do that, what you'll find is your team members will respect you more. And it's just one of those things where don't ever worry about mistakes. Growing is not always a clean and neat process. Mm-hmm. You are going to get some dirt on you, like mm-hmm. you said, like you mm-hmm. just said. So Once we decide to grow, we must expect mistakes and welcome them as a sign that we are moving in the right direction. And you welcome them also as a learning experience.
Right.
Because what is it? You either win or you learn. It's not even win or lose.
Right. Right.
So that's what you should always think about when don't be scared to make mistakes. And that's one of the things that I teach. Next is the perfection gap. And we touched on that a little bit. I have to find the best way before I start. There's a saying, the best time to start anything is yesterday or 10 years ago. You know, the second best time to start is right now. So the perfection gap, and when you say I have to find the best way before I start, we touched on it, but I just want to add to it. It's never going to be the perfect time. You're never going to get all the information to start and do something. You should start and then course correct. Now, I understand that you just don't want to. I'm not a big proponent of jumping out of an airplane and figuring out your parachute later, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you collect as much information as you can. You give yourself a few months or whatever, you collect the information, and then you move forward. You don't have to have everything perfect. So what do you say to that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the perfection gap, it definitely paralyzes me. I mean, I'm still working in this area. This is an area I wish that I have overcome, or overcome, and it's something that I wish that I could just, be able to operate the way you do. It's like once you see something, you just move forward. You don't sit and think about it. And but I'm an overthinker, and overthinking paralyzes my movement. So and also I think the perfection gap, it's like a little bit of an excuse too. It's like, oh, I can't move forward because of this, that, and the other. And it's also showing, and being a woman of faith, it shows that it's a control issue. And, and we were created, without fear. We were created to, with power and love and self-discipline, or self-control. So this is one area that has really delayed my progress in life, and I believe that if there were times I would just do it, I wouldn't be overthinking things over and over and over. Basically, projecting, failure, or what if this goes wrong, and what if that goes wrong, and what if I don't have the time, and I'm not ready yet. I need to get another degree, or I need to get another certification. I mean, even this podcast. I mean, this is me ripping off the Band-Aid and just coming on and saying, hey, let's do it. Yeah. So the perfection gap is something that I definitely am working on, and every day it gets better. So. Yeah,
and that is something that. Another thing that I want to say, the last thing I want to say about the perfection gap is the more reps you get in at anything makes you better. There's a saying, anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's kind of the way I work. Right, I don't have to wait until it's perfect for me to start. I just have to start. The next one is the inspiration gap. Now, the inspiration gap says, I don't feel like doing it. Why are you laughing?
It's a little warm in here.
So the major difference between those who do it and those who don't do it is those who do it do it. That's it. I mean, either you do it or you don't.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll start with this one because, I get up and go to the gym every morning. And everybody always asks me, man, Chris, how do you do that? How do you feel like getting up every morning and going to the gym? I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't feel like getting up going to the gym. But you get up and you go every morning. Yeah, because I know what it does for me. I know it keeps my body in shape, it keeps my mind fresh, and it's just good for you. I mean, I don't have to go into any fitness rants, but everyone knows it's good for you, but everyone waits until they feel like it before they do it. And I can tell you, it's funny when we're in the gym, after I'm done working out, I get my clothes out of the locker, and I'll always see someone in there. One of the guys will be in there, and we all say the same thing. Man, I didn't feel like coming this morning, but I'm glad I did. Right? So it's not about doing things that you feel like. Another example I give you is there's a term that I made up. I don't know if I made it up or if I heard it from someone, but I call it cherry picking. And it's for those people who are at work and let's say they have 10 things they need to get done. 5 of them are easy, 2 of them are hard, and 3 of them are medium. Well, what do? They just do the easy ones and said, I was busy all day. I'm the opposite. Mm-hmm. I do the hard things first, whether I feel like doing them or not. And sometimes people will ask me, man, Chris, you get all of this stuff done. I say, no, I get the priority things done.
Right.
Right, because I don't have to wait. I don't just do the things I feel like doing. I don't just do the things that are easy. I do the things that need to get done, regardless of how I feel. So what do you say about the inspiration gap?
Yeah, the inspiration gap is one of the gaps that I'm still working on as well. I love to inspire others. That's that's something that I love to do. I love to encourage others. But when it comes to me, I have those cherry picking moments, and it just goes back to maybe I don't have the confidence at that time to complete that project that may take a little bit more time. I want to be able to, and again, it goes back to the perfection gap. Like I want to do a little bit more research, or I want to do a little bit more reading before I attack that project. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to maybe I don't have the confidence. Maybe I'm not asking the right questions to be able to even work on the project. Dealing with a little bit of confidence here. Like maybe I don't want to have to go ask my supervisor, 5 questions that maybe that supervisor could say, hey, you should have already known that, or why are you asking that question? That's something that you should have already researched, and so that will also delay that project. But I would say my personality is, I need to feel inspired to do something. No, I don't go to the gym every day like Chris does, but when there's something meaningful, when there's something that I know that there's something that I need to do, and it's helping somebody else, whether it's advocating for someone else that's in need of something, I will push my feelings to the side. Like I don't feel like doing this, and I will attack it, and I will do it, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. Yeah. So I've learned that there's just different things. I guess that's cherry picking, but I just know that being an advocate for others, that's just something that I have a passion for, and I will do it to the best of my ability, even if I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I was reading, and it was talking about feelings are unreliable, right? So you can't take your feelings and say, okay, I'll just wait until I feel like doing something. But the thing is, action kind of makes the difference as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can act your way into feeling like doing it. And that's what I was explaining about going to the gym. I mean, there's many a days I get up, I get in the car, we're going, I'm like, well, I don't really have to go today, But I'll say, okay, but the team is there waiting on me because I have my little workout partners, and I'm like, well, I'll just go in there for them or something. But the bottom line is, I know once I get in there, and that's in the back of my mind as well. Once I get in there and start working out, I know that 20 minutes, 15 minutes into working out, I'm gonna be like, oh man, I'm glad everything gets loose. I'm glad I'm there. Next is, this is a good one, the comparison gap. Mm-hmm. Others are better than I am. Some people get stuck on that, right? Here's the thing about comparison. I explain this to everybody I mentor. Never compare yourself to others. Only compare yourself to the person you were 5 months ago or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's who you compare yourself with, because you should be better. You should be doing something to get better.
Right.
And here's another thing. When you compare yourself to others, there's two bad things that can happen. One, you compare yourself to someone who's way above you and it makes you feel terrible.
Right.
Two, you compare yourself to someone that you think you're way above. And that gives you that false sense of you're better. It gives you that false sense of superiority, mm-hmm. right? So you start looking for people who you think you're better than to hang around, right? So basically what I'm saying is comparison to other people. There is no good comparison to other people.
Right.
Right. But I know that's what I've done and what has helped me is I know I'm better now than I was 5 years ago. And I'm going to keep just trying to get better and just looking at that. What everybody else is doing, I heard Les Brown say it one time, what people think about me is none of my business. So I just keep it moving instead of comparing myself to anybody else, I just keep it moving, right? And just look at what am I doing. So what do you think about the comparison gap?
Yeah, the comparison gap. I mean, it took years to finally get to this level, and every now and then there will be a little bit of moments, but in that moment, we all have strengths, mm-hmm. and we all have weaknesses, and you just help those, just like I would want to be helped in my weakness, and those that they have their strengths. It's like learning from them. So it's mm-hmm. like, wow, how did you do X, Y, and Z? And I can learn from that, but not they're not a threat to me, or vice versa.
Right.
And that, I mean, especially being a female, I mean, that just I feel like maybe females tend to do it more, and but really it's just the mindset of just saying, wow, this female or this sister in Christ, wow, they have some really, beautiful gifts, and how can I learn from that? And even in the workplace, like, wow, how did you complete that project so quickly? Like, if there are any tips that I can take, but with good intentions, right? Just learning, I just believe in iron sharpens iron. I really do believe in that, because we all have strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the last thing I want to say about the comparison gap is I always think about someone maybe looking at you as the better person or as mm-hmm. the better mentor, and just show them the way. Don't try to say you're better than someone. Just if someone asks you to mentor them, or if you're put in a position to coach that person, just do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And keep it moving. Last one. The expectation gap. I thought it would be easier. Now, so whether it's going to school, getting a degree, whether it's being in the military, whether it's raising children, it doesn't matter what it is. The bottom line is it takes time, it takes strength, it takes just a fortitude to keep going. Nothing is easy. So I guess whenever I attack something, I attack it in a way that I'm one of those people, I'll think about what's the worst case scenario sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go after it like that, but I never expect anything to be easy. And I've learned a lot of things over the years. I've learned how to do everything from, build a computer to braid my daughter's hair, mm-hmm. right, when she was young. And none of it was easy. All of it took time, it took trial, it took just getting through it, right? Just doing it over and over again to get through it. And I remember a friend of mine told me once about luck. And I hate it when someone says, man, Chris, you so lucky. Mm-hmm. You so lucky to be to get to where what level I am in the military, in the federal government. And you're so lucky to have a retirement check. And you're so lucky I'm like, luck? You don't just get a retirement check unless you've been there long enough to retire. And it's not luck. It's by the grace of God, but it's also you put in the work.
That's right.
And so I guess it's the luck paradigm. It says preparation plus attitude plus opportunity plus action equals luck. Preparation, attitude, opportunity, action. That's how you get lucky. So thinking that it's going to be easy is not the thing. And even when I coach people, I say, listen, this is not a 2-day thing. If someone asks me, hey, Chris, what's the one thing I need to learn about leadership? Just the one thing. So there is no one thing. There's a lot of things, and it takes a lot of time. Right? If you want to get good, if you want to get to be that type of person that people say, I want that person to lead my team, then you have to put the time in, mm-hmm. right? And it is not, you can't expect it to be easy. So the expectation gap, what do you think about the expectation gap? And what have you thought was going to be easy? I know it's easy being married to me, but what else?
The expectation gap. Just that opportunity that I stepped in and the acting role. I thought it was going to be easy, and actually, I would say a lot of my decisions, I thought it was going to be easier than this, because you are the self-disciplined. You're so disciplined in everything that you do. You're constantly preparing. And whereas I'm just kind of thrown in it, and but no one's perfect, and even when I thought things were going to be easy, I learned perseverance, and so perseverance is just you don't quit, as hard as it is, and even though I thought it might have been easier, the blessing is that I persevered, prevailed, and learned those lessons. And then the next time, if there's another situation, then I'll prepare a little bit, right? I may not prepare as much as you do, but I will prepare a little bit. I'll be a little bit more methodical, or with being practical, not overthinking too much, but I'll just use those moments, so those lessons where I thought it was going to be easier, and I apply them to things that are happening to me now, whether it's working in, even though I'm retired, but working in other things. Mm-hmm. And but you do, I mean, I did face a little disappointment of like, oh, I thought it was going to be different. I thought this was going to turn out this way. I thought that situation was going to be permanent. But I take what I was presented with and I learn from it. Mm-hmm. And then I pass it forward and share it with someone else and be able to help someone based on the lessons that I learned. It's not for me to keep. It's not for me to hoard. It's to help. It's for me. I went through it for a reason, and it's to help someone else. And that's just wisdom.
Yeah. Yep. Peace and wisdom. Those are the two things I pray about all the time. Yes. Lord, give me peace, and Lord, give me wisdom. And I'll handle the rest.
Absolutely. Yes.
So now we did get through all of them. You know, this might be a little bit longer podcast, but this was our first one. And so now we will start preparing for our next one. So that's it. My name is Christopher Houston. Thank you very much. Good night. And God bless.
Yes. And my name is Diana Houston. Just ripped off the Band-Aid.
All right. Thanks, babe. Mm-hmm.